friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be working on the cover to our Victorian Autumn themed journal. So I was toying with some ideas on what I wanted to do on the cover. I know I mentioned in my previous video when I kind of went over all of the kind of inspiration pieces that I had for this journal that I had wanted to use some of this beautiful wine dyed fabric that came from a tablecloth that I found at the thrift store. The tablecloth in general was in really bad condition. Lots of stains on it, lots of like bad spots. So basically I dyed the whole thing and then I cut the pieces off that were salvageable. And I tried to salvage as many of these kind of lace pieces. Like the corners had these beautiful lace edges. There was these like embroidered flowers all around it, but I really loved like the embroidery and I loved this like open stitching, but I could only get a certain size, a few certain size pieces out of this tablecloth that were worth using. So what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to toy with which pieces I want to use on this cover and how I want to arrange them. So my thoughts were, instead of just using this alone, because you can see the underside of the book if you use this alone, like through this open crocheting here. I was thinking of doing like a lining on the book with just some plain fabric like this one first, so it's got like a nice base, and then putting this fabric on top, something like that, because I really loved this one in particular. I really loved the lace with the circular shape here, and then I loved the roses on both sides back here. So I was thinking of either using this portion right here as the front of the book, which would kind of be like this. So we're going to start with this piece of fabric that I have here. This, I believe, is just a cut up pillowcase. Pretty sure that it's a pillowcase. And it was scraps that I had gotten in a bag of scraps from the Goodwill bins. So, but it feels kind of like a cotton pillowcase. So we're going to use this. And I'm going to use my Mod Podge. I need to refill Mod Podge because I don't have a whole lot left. And then I also want to use just a brush for my Mod Podge as well. And I'm going to use enough fabric to, I'm going to flip this over so that you can see. I'm going to use enough fabric so that way the fabric covers the entire outline of the book cover, plus about an inch or so all the way around. I don't want to have a whole bunch of fabric hanging off the edges. Plus, I try to utilize as much fabric as possible. Okay. All right, so now I have enough fabric just to cover the book, plus about an inch all the way around. Now also, there's two sides to fabric too. And you'll notice that one side of this fabric is more on the muted side and the other side is a little bit richer. And I was thinking about going with the more muted side, but after looking at it, I think I might turn it around. I think I might flip it and use the other side because it's a deeper color. Yeah, I think I like that side better. Okay, so let's just brush on let's line it up again. Let's fold the edge like this. Definitely running out of Mod Podge. The Mod Podge I'm using is just a matte Mod Podge. This is kind of like the all-purpose Mod Podge. I'm not using any water with it, so I'm using full strength, and I'm just going to go all over the entire cover. Now I like using a brush as opposed to a sponge when I'm doing this type of thing, because I feel like the bristles get into the textures of the exterior of the book better than the sponge does. Sometimes the sponge just places it on top, where this actually gets right into the little crevices. Okay, so once our cover is full of Mod Podge, I'm going to place that right down and push it down into the fabric. I'm going to lift the other side up and we'll do the spine. Right, and then we'll flip the spine over and we'll push the spine right down into the fabric. Side up, and we'll repeat this process on the back. All right, and we'll fold this one over. Push it all down, flip it over, and make sure it's all pushed down on the front. If there's any little air bubbles or pockets, make sure you rub those out. Now we're going to flip it back over. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to go all the way across the top. I'm going to start at this corner first. And I'm going to pull this corner down. And again, going right across the top with plenty of Mod Podge. And I'm going to do the same thing on this other top corner. I'm going to fold this down. Now we're going to fold this whole top piece down and pull it right into that Mod Podge to glue it right down in tight. I'm going to take a little clip and I'm going to put a little clip right there, and I'm going to put a little clip right there, and I'm going to do the same thing on my bottom. This is just going to give you a nice little crease on your corners so you won't see any of the old book coming through. Clips here. These little clips are great. They came from the Dollar Tree. I have a couple of packets of them, but I use them for lots of different things. They definitely come in handy. Okay, we're going to now work on our side over here. I guess it doesn't matter which side, but we'll work on this side right here. Now I'm putting glue, as you can see, over my fabric on the corner, top and bottom. Right there. And now we're going to pull these sides up over, pull it right down into that glue, nice and tight. So I have all of my sides and edges glued down. What I'm going to do now is just on the inside, I'm going to go all around the edges just to make sure this is all glued down nicely. And I'm going to use my Mod Podge to just glue down all of these edges. I just want to make sure that they're not going to poke up, because even though we are going to put like a paper covering over these, I don't want any air bubbles or pockets or anything like that. So I'm just going over the edges of our fabric. So while I'm waiting for my book cover to dry, my journal cover to dry, I have been working on my little owl here. He's kind of creepy looking. He's definitely very odd looking. He's going to be our mascot for this journal because I want to include a lot of owls. I want to include a lot of woodland animals into this journal. Was just kind of playing around with some different yarn that I had. I have some of this wool yarn, so I kind of put together this little guy. His face is definitely very creepy. I sewed some beads on to make his eyes, and then just took a little bit of string and brushed it out to make his little eyebrows here, and then just brushed out some of my yarn here for his feathers, and then I just did a little tag on him right here. I might embellish him up a little bit at some point, but there he is. We need a name for him, so comment in the comment section below what you guys think we should name him, because he's going to be our little mascot during this series of videos on my channel. So he'll kind of hang out here with us throughout the whole process. So the fabric is all dry, and now I'm laying out the top fabric, or the wine dyed fabric, and I think I'm gonna go with this pattern right here. I think I'm gonna use this beautiful lace corner and have the corner face in. So this will be the front of the book, and then the back of the book will have pieces of these beautiful little appliques right here, and then I can kind of embellish these areas right here with something else as we go along. So I kind of have it laid out how I want. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to carefully cut, again, about an inch all the way around. So here's the piece that I'm going to use. And I'm going to get out my Mod Podge again, and we're going to start gluing this down on top of my fabric. Just carefully go piece by piece, starting on this side. I'm going to go on the underside of this lace just to get it started. And I'm going to glue that down exactly where I want it. Kind of a tedious process doing this part, because you got to do little pieces at a time. I want to make sure that lace sticks really well, and I'm just going to carefully continue working all around the lace. Have my cover all glued down on front. I'm gonna let it dry. I actually took my Mod Podge and went over the lace right here on the back side of the book. I might do the same thing on the front. I'm gonna see how it dries back here. I just want to make sure that I have enough bend to it. So I'm going to let this dry for a good couple of hours, and then I will go back in and see if there's any places that I need to touch up on the glue on the exterior, and then we'll flip it over and we'll do the inside. My outside of my journal is all dry. There's a few spots where it is still a little bit wet. I had it outside drying so that it would dry quicker, but for the most part it's all dry. And I'm going to flip it around, and we're going to start working on folding this outside piece in just like we did with the rest of the fabric here. But instead of pulling the edges in like this, I'm going to clip off the edges so that way they're less bulky on the corners. So let's just take the scissors and clip off a corner there, and we'll clip off a corner over here. That. And then we can go ahead and put more Mod Podge on and fold these pieces of fabric up as well. So I have everything all Mod Podged down. All of the cover is Mod Podged down. So that is just about done. We just have to let that dry. But now I have some of this really pretty vintage lace that came off of an old vintage curtain. And I want to use some of this on the edges of my journal. I want to go slightly under the top and slightly under the bottom. And I'm just going to cut a piece of this lace. I don't want it to overhang over the top and bottom. I want it to stay within the confines of the height of the book. So I'm going to do a piece of lace for that side, and we'll do another piece of lace the exact same size on the other side. So now I have my 2 pieces of lace. Now one side has this really pretty mauve color ribbon, and then the rest is just the fabric that was on the curtain. So I'm going to make sure that this ribbon shows on the outside of the book. So I want to face it down when I glue it in. And I also want to make sure this ribbon is just over the edge of the book. More Mod Podge. I'm definitely going to need to stop and get Mod Podge because I am just about out. All right. Got a nice coating of Mod Podge for that ribbon or for that lace. Look on this side just to see. I don't want any of the fabric showing. I just want the ribbon. Or the lace is coming out on the other side of the flap. And we'll do the same thing on this side. So while my cover is drying, I'm going to use both of these images to cut out pieces for my inside covers. So I want one on the front and one on the back. So my measurements are 8 1/4 by 5 inches, and that allows me about just under 1/4 of an inch all the way around, because I don't want to go all the way to the edge. And here's the other one. So there's my 2 inside covers. So I'm also going to round off these edges and distress them slightly. So I am going to be using a lot of dark ink, the archival ink. I'm actually using the color Ground Espresso. I'm going to be using a lot of this in distressing a lot of the pages that I do for this book, because I want to keep it on the darker side. And I find that inking and distressing the pages really helps keep it kind of look still vintage, and it takes away that stark whiteness of the paper cuts. So my cover is all dry, front and inside, before we put the lining in here. We're actually not going to put any lining in it quite yet. I want to make sure I have my signatures on my inside spine all ready before we go ahead and do that, because then eventually we will put these pages on here like this. So eventually that's what it will look like, and we'll have our signatures on this spine right here. But we're not going to do that yet. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So what I ended up doing was I ended up Mod Podging over my lace here, so that way none of it lifted and it was all nice and sturdy. I'm actually going to do a little gold gilding on the lace to kind of bring in little pops of gold, because I'm going to use some gold rivets, and I'm also going to use some gold hardware. This is a little charm hanger, and so I want to attach all of those, but I want to put a little bit of gold around this lace as well, just to kind of give it a little extra pop. So I'm using just some Rub and Buff, and it's a wax metallic finish, and you can use your finger or you can use a brush. I just like using my finger when I do this, and I'm just kind of gonna rub over my lace with the Rub and Buff. Now remember, I have Mod Podge on this lace, so it's nice and hard, so it picks up that gold gilding really nicely. So as you can see, I have all of the lace just lightly brushed with that rub and buff gold, and I'm also going to go around the edges here on the corners with it. And it kind of distresses the fabric, but it gives it kind of like a, I don't know, just like a regal look, which is really cool. So I'm just rubbing those corners, kind of just like you would do if you were distressing. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. Rub those corners. I really like the look that it gives it. It gives it more of almost like a worn look. And you don't need very much at all. I just put a tiny little bit on my finger and rub my finger around the edges. And I'm going to go all along this top edge here, just lightly. So next I want to put on a few little embellishments. So I have this little, it's like a little hang tag thing, and I'm going to insert this in the spine of my book so that way we can attach some danglies, some charms, some whatnots off of this. So I will grab my awl and I'm going to apply it right to the spine of my book here. And so I'm going to flip it over on the back because you can see a little bit better where about the center is, but I want to keep it close to the top. So I'm thinking probably like right in this area right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and punch a hole right through with my awl. And then these are those pieces that you squeeze together like that. You'll insert this through the hole. Push it all the way through. Now I want mine going up and down. So then I will flip my back pieces over. Just like that. All right, so there is my little attachment so that I can hang some charms or whatnots off of that, and you can see that's what it looks like on the back side. Now this will all be covered by the spine of the signatures. Okay, so in addition to that, I also want to add some of these little brads. They're little brads and they have 4 little spiky corners on the end, and I want to put these on one on each corner of my book. And then I'm going to push them in just like that. They should go right in. There you go. And I'll do another one on the bottom. Now you could do corner brackets which go over the corner of your pages, but I am just going to use these. I'm going to use the end of my awl to kind of push it down in there. There. It just kind of finishes off. Hardware always finishes off covers really nicely. I'll flip it over and we're going to do 2 on the back as well. Now I also want to mention that now would also be the time, if you were going to put a ribbon in to tie the book together, now would be the time to do that. You would actually, I'll use this for an example. I'm not using this, but just to kind of show you how this would be done, say this was a ribbon, you would glue in your ribbon right across the center of your book right now, and you'd leave a piece out on the right hand side and you'd leave a piece out on the left hand side, and then when you put your inside covers, they would go on the top of your ribbon like that, so that way when you close the book you'd have ribbons to tie the book shut. So I am not doing that. I am actually going to do an exterior kind of clasp because I don't know how thick this book is going to get. So I want to do something on the exterior of this book. And also now would be the time to attach any type of bookmarks. If you wanted to have some ribbon bookmarks, I know you could do that along the spine. And again, I'll use my yarn here as an example. You would glue your bookmarks along the spine here and then leave a part at the top, so that way when the spine goes in, you have the bookmarks already glued in behind where your pages are, so you can pull your bookmarks down in between whatever pages you are using. But I am going to also do a bookmark, but I'm going to do a detachable one. I decided to put in 2 more pieces of hardware, and the reason why is I'm going to put in a little clasp here and a little clasp here, so that way when it's time to put my chain on, they'll already be in my book. So what I did was I took 2 more of these little dangly charm clasps. I pulled one apart. I'm actually going to pull both of them apart, but I wanted to kind of show you how I was doing it. So I'm taking this piece off, and then I'm taking the ring out, okay? And then I'm just taking my little pliers that I have here, and I'm opening up this opening a little bit wider than what it was. So I'm just gonna make the loop a little bit bigger, so that way I can fit something a little bit bigger in here. There's my clasp right there. I'm going to put it back through my little decorative cover piece, and I just want to make sure now that I have these cute little locks with a key, and I want to put a lock and key on this. I want to make sure that this fits down inside that little opening, which it does. It fits perfectly, just like that. So as long as that fits good, we're good to go. Just unlock it again. Okay, so I have 2 of them, one for the front and one for the back. You're not going to have the lock on both the front and back, but you are going to connect something to the back that will have a chain attached to it that will attach to the lock, so that way you can clasp it in the front with the lock. I am going to go right in the center here, and I'm going to punch. So I just rolled up a small piece of cardboard, and I'm going to put that through on the other side, just so I have something to punch into. Okay, should have come out on the other side. I'll just push it through, make the hole a little bit bigger. Then we'll take our clasp, and we're going to put that through. And let's just double check it. Make sure that I'm not putting it in too tight so that the lock can't fit. So that looks good, just like that. I'm gonna hold it and take my pliers and open it up on the other side. Okay, so there is my front clasp. So now you can see you can put a lock right in it, and the lock will fit, and it stays. And we're going to do the same thing on the back side. Okay, so I am at a good stopping point, I think, for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this first part of assembling our journal cover. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, make sure your notifications are turned on so that you are notified whenever we post another video, because the next video will be coming up very soon. And also, don't forget, comment in the comment section below what you think we should name our little mascot guy here. So eventually we're going to add some fun things to him, and he's going to dangle off of the edge of this little charm hanger on our journal. So, but we need a name. So comment below what you think we should name him. He's kind of weird looking. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you have a great rest of your day and take care. We'll see you again real soon.